Hey guys, it's Cameroon and welcome back to another video. Now this is probably a later upload, that's for sure, as somehow I missed the patch notes for Season 7, but here we are now and still before Season 7 launches. This video will focus on the balance side of things, including changes for heroes and a potential new system for how respawning in the game works. And quickly, I just want to say that the support on the Farewell Season 6 video has been amazing, so to anyone who has subscribed because of that video, welcome and thank you to everyone who watched. It really means a lot to me. Alrighty, let's get right into the upcoming balance changes for Season 7. Let's first talk about the group respawn system. In all modes that aren't competitive, heroes who have been eliminated within 5 seconds of each other will respawn together, which means some players may have a longer or shorter queue than the standard 10 seconds respawn timer. If no one else was eliminated within 5 seconds, you still have the standard 10-second timer. Now, this change is to try and bring a little more cohesion in teamfights. There's plenty of times where your teammate respawned earlier than you and decided to take the fight alone rather than together. This is to help make fights with your team happen more frequently. I don't really know how this will feel, to be honest. I like the idea of it, and I'm all for the devs trying to prevent games from feeling like stomps. I think this is going to be easier to understand through experience, because who knows, maybe in overtime situations, this is really bad. But remember, this is only in non-competitive modes. If players like it a lot, they'll consider implementing these changes into competitive as well. Also, Quickplay is receiving a slight change to how levers are penalized. Rather than receiving a 75% Battle Pass XP reduction for leaving 4 of your last 20 matches, players will receive time penalties instead that ramp up the more you leave, like 10 minutes for the first penalty, then 30 minutes for the second, and so on. These penalties will prevent you from playing most game modes until the timer finishes. Now, in my opinion, I think that this is a good change because the old system punished players who just didn't play a lot because the 20 games never refreshed. So say if you had some connection issues one day and got booted 3 times, then a week later you play and leave one match, whether it was rage quitting, going to get food, or any other reason, you would still be penalized with a 75% reduction in XP, even though a week has passed. It didn't help that the reduction also applies to challenges with XP rewards too. So good luck getting anything from the Battle Pass. I think that system was awful, and this change is just better, because if you already have to go, a 10-minute penalty isn't going to affect the players because they're already done for the day, but will punish the intentional leavers that immediately queue another match afterwards. Alright, now that that's been covered, let's get into hero balance. I'm going to avoid covering Sombra in this video since I've already made a specific video covering her separately. Let's start with tank. Orisa has received a slight nerf to her Fortify. The damage reduction has been decreased from 50% to 45%. It's a nerf, but I do think that Fortify should be reduced more than that. She'll still probably have that feeling of being an immortal being. Ramattra's Nemesis form is getting slightly buffed, with its cooldown being decreased from 8 to 7 seconds. That's a good change. Ramattra has been slipping lately, and I think allowing him to get Nemesis ever so slightly faster is good. Wrecking Ball is getting a slight buff to his primary weapon, or quad cannons. The number of shots to reach the maximum spread has been increased from 20 to 30, so you'll be a little bit more accurate in your first 30 shots. And the last tank to receive changes is Zarya. As we all know, her projected barrier size is now being decreased to her former self. It's no longer 15% bigger, and the health from that bubble has been decreased from 225 to 200. Now moving on to damage, we have Cassidy. His combat role has got a damage reduction increased from 50% to 75%. Did anyone ask for this? I don't think this is OP or anything. It just seems kind of like, why? I don't know. Moving on, Mei is getting reverted back to her pre-season 5 self. If you don't know what that is, her deep chill passive has been removed, so no longer getting that extra burst of damage after freezing somebody so long. And her primary weapon, her endothermic blasters, damage per second has been increased from 70 to 100, and now immediately slows enemies by 40% instead of building up over time. Moving on, we have Torbjorn. His rivet gun, or his primary weapon, has had its primary fire recovery increased from 0.48 to 0.51 seconds. Now what does that mean? The fire rate is now slightly slower in between each shot. Also, his overload ability has had its over health bonus decreased from 175. I like that change. I think Torbjorn had a little too much survivability. Then finally moving on to support, we have Brigitte. Her whip shot damage has been increased from 70 to 80, so she's just getting a slight buff. And then Illari is getting a nerf to her solar rifle. Her secondary fire healing per second has been decreased from 120 to 105. I don't know how I feel about this because I feel majority of the time Illari is getting her healing potential from her turret. It's not even her beam, but of course I think we've all been on that side where you're trying to eliminate some enemy and then Illari is just using that beam, and that enemy you're shooting at or hitting with a hammer or whatever, its health is increasing faster than the amount of damage that you could put in, and that is just crazy. So I guess making that adjustment's okay, but I think her turret is more of a problem than her solar rifle. Now there's also been a bunch of hero options and input updates for specific heroes in the settings. These are like quality of life things. I'm not going to go into detail about them, but you can check them out yourself if it interests you. I'll leave the patch notes in the description below. Overall, I feel like these balance changes are on the small side of things. Nothing really changes with these, maybe besides Mei being back to her pre-season 5 self. Cassidy getting even more damage reduction to roll is just weird. And like I've said before, I don't think anyone else thought that this was necessary. And then Bastion not getting any other adjustment is a little baffling, so he'll still be running rampant in games. And then with a reworked Sombra into the mix, I don't think Tank is going to have fun this season at all. But we'll have to wait and see, I guess. I do appreciate them adjusting Fortify though, but I still believe they should reduce the number more. Anyways, let me know how you feel about these upcoming game and hero balance changes. Is there a hero that you thought should have been buffed or nerfed, or are you generally happy about these changes? But yeah, that's it for me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, or night, and I will talk to you all soon.